Hello, everybody. My name is Carter Hall, your host of the What Really Happened podcast. With me today, I've got a good friend of mine and someone who very knowledgeable in the world of MMA. And he's been on here countless times, and he's on here again to talk about the UFC fights that are going on at UFC 281 this Saturday. I've got Matt Long. How's it going, man?
I'm good. How about you?
Good, man. Thank you. So it feels like we come on a lot. So it feels like we talk about every time of like every time like a UFC pay per view comes up or anything like that. I'm always like down to talk about the UFC. So thanks for making availability to come on. So because it's like my favorite time, like this big UFC pay per view coming on. So I was looking at the fights and everything like that, and I was like, man, this is a really stacked main card. It seems like I was really looking. I was like, man, the main card in itself is like everything on it is like looks stacked up and everything. So I was like, man, I felt like I need to message Matt and see if he wants to come on the podcast. So I started a quick message to you quick, and I was like, yo, Matt, you want to come on here? Like, came back with a quick, yeah, of course. So, and what about this pay per view? Are you looking forward to?
From the Dustin Poirier versus Michael Chandler fight all the way to the main event. I think all three of those fights are going to be amazing to watch. The one that's really got my eye is how is the main event going to turn out to be? Uh, Adesanya versus Alex Pereira. They fought two times back in kickboxing, but this is a whole different sport.
Yeah, it is for sure. I mean, when you talk about kickboxing, that's a crazy sport in itself. But you're talking about like MMA, where it's like you got multiple disciplines in one fight. So I'm kind of looking forward to that fight a lot. Because last time I think Israel fought or Izzy fought, we saw him come out with the Undertaker or anything like that, with the urn and anything like that in the hat. So I'm always looking forward to like I'm looking forward towards the match and anything like that because it's a title fight, obviously. Because last title fight that I remember there was, we saw who was it? I'm losing his name. Leon Edwards. Last title fight I remember watching live was Leon Edwards fight, and I was like, oh no. And then we had the one after that, UFC 280, with that title fight where
Fair.
yeah, Islam won, and I was like, man, this is like the last two fights that we had. It feels like the titles have changed hands big time, so it felt like we don't know what's in store. So far, we're 2 for 2 in title changes. It seems like so. Who knows if it's going to go 3 for 3? Can Lightning strike 3 times in a row? What do you think?
I think it could very well be a title shifter because if you look at Alex Pereira, like the spot that he's in, like he's beaten some of like the guys that like he was like given to, but he is like he was up there when he KO'd Sean Strickland,
Yeah.
and now like he's in the running for the title, and like I think the UFC wanted this to happen. I think they wanted Adesanya to fight Pereira again, just in a different sport to see like how things would be. But
Mm-hmm.
maybe Alex does have a shot for sure because he just has that crazy power, and like it's unbelievable. I mean, Joe Rogan has talked about it so much.
Yeah, I've heard Joe talk about like his abilities, his knockout abilities so much too. I've heard something about that too. I'm kind of looking towards the main event for sure because man, Izzy or Israel, like everybody, I sometimes call him Izzy. I don't know why. I just used to call him Izzy. Izzy. He's one of those people. I feel like he could go in and control the game, the match for sure. But with Alex, you never know what's going to happen. He's got that like that power too, like sorry, that knockout power too. You never know because he can come in with anything too a little bit. So I'm kind of looking forward to that match a lot too. So, um, what do you think? Who's going to win? Well, first, you kind of gave your idea, but maybe you could probably expand on it a little bit more. But one, who do you think is going to win? And two, how do you think, like, what round do you think is going to be finished in
Um,
the distance?
I don't think it will go to the distance at all. I could see this fight ending in the second round, and I could see Izzy in a lot of trouble. I'm taking Alex because I think Alex just has that power. And like Joe Rogan said it before, like if Izzy gets tagged, Alex is gonna win
Yeah, for
because
sure.
it's just unbelievable.
Yeah, it is. I mean, if Alex goes in and really controls the game, I think it's really game set match for and then I really think Alex can go in and win it too. That's one of those. He's one of those matches. I'm just excited either way to see. Is there very feel often I see these fights, they're like, man, it really could like. I'm interested to see how the outcome goes. Because it feels like they're so like I don't know how to explain it. I'm so excited to watch this fight because it really. I think Alex has a great chance, but it could go either way, and I'm just excited to see how it ends.
Yeah, me too. But I will say this. I mean, I thought Izzy was gonna lose to what was his name? Paulo Costa.
Oh yeah,
Back when they fought in Abu Dhabi, and I was completely wrong. And like I'm glad that I was wrong because I really do like Izzy, but like I thought Costa was gonna murder him with all the times before the title fight when he pressured Yoel Romero and just kept winning and winning. He was undefeated in the UFC before that fight with Izzy, and then Izzy picked him apart.
yeah, and you said Yoel Romero. He's one of those people too. I kind of remember watching back in the day in his prime. He was a monster to watch back in the day too.
Yes, he was.
Yeah, and
He's doing well at Bellator.
yeah, and Bellator, he was really a different animal too. And the fact that he went and had that fight, I'm just kind of crazy. I was like up and down this card. I was like literally from beginning to end. It looked so interesting to me just because it felt like you got I think Dan Hooker. I saw his name I think somewhere on the card somewhere. Um,
Yes.
yeah, and I think it's about who he's fighting. But I kind of looked at it last night. And I was like, this looks crazy. He's fight. I haven't seen him fight in a minute. It seems like. And then you got Michael Chandler fighting again. I really want to watch that fight. I'm really looking towards that fight too. It feels like
Oh
the yeah.
yeah, me too, man.
Why are you looking forward to it? Since we're talking about it.
If you see Michael Chandler fought Justin Gaethje back in UFC 268, that
Mm-hmm.
was a banger. That went to the distance.
I did.
Dustin Poirier is the number one or number two now since Charles Oliveira got bumped down to number one. But Poirier was the number one contender. So like the spot that he's in, like that's a huge fight for Michael Chandler. It's a huge step up from competition.
It is for sure. Do you think this is going to ultimately like the winner of this is going to fight Charles? You think for the number one contender slot? Like how? Like
Um,
I really ask you that.
Possibly.
Yeah. So I was going to say like with this outcome of Dustin Poirier versus Michael Chandler, what outcome do you think like? What do you see the outcome of this fight?
If it doesn't go to the distance, I could see it ending in round two with either of them winning. I mean, Poirier may have a better stand up,
Mm-hmm.
but Michael Chandler, I wouldn't sleep on his stand up either. I mean, the way that he knocked out Tony Ferguson with that head kick, like we didn't expect it. So like anything could happen, as we know.
Yeah, I remember like or not Charles, excuse me, Chandler. I believe he's one of those people even since Bellator before he made the transfer over. He's his overall ground game. I think takedown game has really been really good too. I'm still kind of looking forward to see how this class is between him and Dustin is going to go because it feels like with Dustin, he's good on his feet and everything like you mentioned, but I'm looking to see if Dustin's going to go in there with his confidence and everything, his stand up game, or is he going to go in there and try to do something different? So I'm really looking forward to see how this is going to go too. Because last time we saw a Dustin fight, or at least not at least me, one of the last times I saw a Dustin fight, um, was against Conor McGregor, and that's one of the last times I kind of going way back. And um, I remember Dustin and Conor, that those two fights that they had, where Dustin beat Conor again. So when I'm talking about the last two Dustin fights he had with Conor, it was Dustin versus Conor 2 and Dustin versus Conor 3. Those are the last two fights I'm talking about. Those two fights were
Yeah.
really, I think, really set the stone, or really set what am I trying to say? They really set the pace for what's going on next for Dustin. So he's really looking for that title fight again, I think.
Yeah, but Dustin Poirier's last fight was actually a title fight when he fought
Yeah,
Charles Oliveira in 269.
yeah, and he lost that pretty bad.
Yeah, he
But
got submitted.
yeah, and do you think doesn't Connor come? Doesn't Connor was it Connor supposed to come back this year or is it next year? Do you
I think
remember?
it's next year.
Yeah. Do you think? Man, that's crazy. Do you think he's when he comes back? Do you think? Well, first, do you think he's going to come back and fight?
I think he will. I just don't know who will be his opponent, you know? Like, we're still waiting on that.
Yeah. Do you think he? I keep sorry. I just started daydreaming about, well, not daydreaming, but thinking about like the possibilities of what could happen with Connor coming back. I just keep thinking, like, every time I think about it, I keep thinking like, man, like I feel like with Michael Chandler versus Dustin, it could set up, like you said, a shot at, shot with Charles Oliveira. And I think the winner of that, oh gosh, can you imagine if Connor comes back and fights one of those winners? That'd be kind of crazy, I think, though. Or does Connor work his way back up?
I don't even know how that works. I mean, Connor is Connor, of course. Like, he has the pay per view selling like money and stuff. So we'll see like how that works once we get to 2023. There's a lot of great fights stacked up for next year already, so I'm sure we'll see some soon enough.
Sure. So, I may already asked you this question. I'm sorry if I have, but who'd you say you have in the Chandler versus Poirier fight?
I'm gonna go with Poirier, even though that I really like Michael Chandler. I just think Poirier is better. He's been in the UFC the longest. He's he's like one of the top guys in the lightweight rankings for a reason. So I'm gonna go with the veteran.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's a good pick too. I'm really looking forward. I don't know who to pick honestly in this fight. I mean, uh, you said too. I think Chandler's so new to, like, not brand new, but he's still newer to UFC. If that makes any sense, he's
Uh,
still he. I'm not taking anything away. I think he's really adjusted really well into UFC, obviously. But I think sometimes you never know. I think sometimes experience can beat out that kind of stuff. And no one has experience in the UFC like Dustin between the two of them. So I think I might have to go with Dustin too a little bit, just because I think just on that fact alone, I think he's been in the UFC a little bit longer. But go ahead. I'm sorry. Were you gonna say something?
no, I was agreeing.
Oh, sorry. I looked up for a second. I thought I heard you say something. So we got that fight and the co-main event, right?
Yeah, the co-main, Carla Esparza and Weili Zhang.
Yeah. So that's going to be a crazy co-main event. What are your thoughts and opinions on that fight? Because kind of leading up to it, I was kind of interested to see how this is going to go. And what are your thoughts? Like, what are your expectations for this fight?
Um, with Carla Esparza knowing that the wrestler she is, I think she's gonna try to pressure Weili Zhang. But my question is, how is that gonna work when Weili is a very good stand-up fighter and Weili Zhang's pressure is very good too on the stand-up. So
Yeah,
we we don't know whose stand-up is gonna be better by this or at this fight. We don't even know if it's gonna go to the distance. We don't know if like who's gonna have the edge at this fight. on this fight. Excuse me.
Good. So there's a lot of, it sounds like there's going to be a lot of like uncertainty and unknowns in this fight. Kind of, you never know what's going to happen, right?
Yeah, like I have no idea how it's gonna play out. Kind of like when Esparza won the title from Rose, I didn't expect the outcome. You know?
Yeah, neither did I. I remember, um, I still know in my head. I know that's not her first name, but I still think of her as Thug Rose. So, when she lost her title, I was like, man, we really didn't know that. I kind of came out of nowhere, and with this co-main event, I don't know. I think you said too. I kind of agree on that point where it's like there's going to be a lot of pressure when the stand up and anything like that. So I really want to know what's going to happen. I think is it going to be a lot of striking? Is it going to go the distance? There's a lot of uncertainty in this fight too. So I'm really looking to see how the strategies from both camps are going to kind of turn out.
Yeah. My prediction on this fight, I think Wei Lee will go out there and prove that she deserves her belt back,
Hmm.
and I think she'll get the finish on Carla.
Yeah, that would be good. I think that's a good outcome too. Um, that'd be great. That's a great outcome. Did you say what round? Did you think it's going to go the distance?
Um, if it doesn't go to a distance, I'm gonna go either round two or round three,
Yeah.
possibly round four.
Yeah. If it doesn't, let's say it doesn't go the distance, do you think the rounds that go, do you think, so let's say it doesn't go the distance, like I said, do you think that like the more it goes on, do you think it's going to be an advantage or disadvantage for someone else?
Um, I don't really know. Like there was a lot of boos that happened in
Really?
Sparta's last fight against Rose, so I don't know what the outcome's gonna be.
Yeah,
We're 2 more days away, so we just have to wait patiently until it's time.
yeah, for sure. I remember that, I forgot what paper, I'm losing my mind on the numbers, but at UFC fight where Rose lost her title, I remember watching that live, and I remember like there's little contact in that fight, like almost like there was contact, but it was very, in my opinion, kind of minimum, if I can speak right. I remember just hearing the booze running down. I was like, oh man, this is going south real quick. And then to see where we're at now, I think I'm kind of interested to see how this Comey is going to turn out. To see how she really deserves that title back, like you said.
Yeah, absolutely. After Whaley lost her title against Rose and then lost the rematch against Rose, and then having to climb all the way back and even beat Joanna in their in her last fight. Now she's back at the title shot,
Mhm.
and she could possibly get her belt back after going through all that adversity.
Yeah, for sure. I think adversity builds a lot of character too, and she's faced a lot of adversity. So I think I'm really looking to see how I really look like. I think, like I said too, she faced a lot of adversity. So I'm really looking to see how she turns that into motivation to go into this fight and see how this outcome turns out. So I'm really looking to this fight too. Is there any other fights on this main card that you're looking forward to towards, or any prelims that you're looking forward to towards?
Besides Dan Hooker, there's two other fights in the prelims. I think it's Dominic Reyes versus Ryan Spann.
What are you looking forward towards in the Dominic Reyes fight?
I'm a big fan of Dominic Reyes, so I just hope he comes back to that that mentality that he had when he was on his way to the title, even when he fought John Jones. When I thought he won that fight, in my opinion, I want him to have that same mentality to go out there and actually like get the finish on Ryan Spann as well.
Yeah, that'd be, I think, pretty big for Dominic Reyes to get the finish on him, and he said too that John Jones fight and anything like that. Um, I remember that fight too a little bit. It's kind of coming back to me. Um, John Jones too. I think Dominic Reyes too. I think he's gonna really have the fact that he's on a prelim too is crazy. I don't know why, but
Uh,
so but
I was agreeing again.
okay, sorry. I was gonna say with Dominic Reyes, I felt like it feels like he really needs to get the finish. I think if he gets a big time knockout sometime or gets a win, like somehow gets a win, if he goes the distance and wins, but somehow, but I don't see any other way of him. Like if he, I think he's going to go for a knockout sometime. You think it feels like if he gets the finish, does something, that's going to be a lot of momentum behind him. He's looking to build momentum. I think behind him. Nothing doesn't have enough already, but I think with this fight, I'm really looking to see how it's going to go.
Yeah. His last opponent, besides John Jones, he lost to two title holders actually. One was Jan Blachowicz,
Yeah,
and the other was the title holder right now for UFC 282 coming up, and that's Yuri Prohaska.
yeah. That's just some crazy opponents to have to go back. If Dominic Reyes, let's say Dominic wins this fight coming up, do you think he's going to be close to like a dinner shot soon, or do you think that's in his future, or what's in the cards after? What's in the cards for Dominic Reyes after this fight? What if he wins?
With him being either the number 7 or number 8 ranked lightweight contender, I think he may have to fight two more opponents if
Yeah,
that's the case to get to the title. Because I feel like that division is pretty stacked. I mean, you got up and coming contenders like Jamal Hill that are still in the running.
yeah,
Uh, Magomed Ankalaev, who is fighting Jan Blachowicz in on 282. So if you want to get to the title again, you have to fight those guys. Even Anthony Lionheart Smith is in that running too.
yeah. Those are some great up and coming guys too. It feels like with this division, well, not just that division alone, but like UFC as a whole, it feels like there's a lot of up and coming guys who are just monsters, and especially with Dominic Reyes. He said, dude, I think he has to fight a few more ranked people to get back and win to get back to the contender, like the title slot, even being considered. He's got to go out there and just finish and win. And I feel like it might be more of an uphill battle for him. Do you think so or no?
Yeah, I think it's gonna be challenging. Like at first, I thought Thiago Santos was the boogeyman in that division, and then he just kept losing all these fights. He lost to Glover Teixeira. He lost to Magomed Ankalaev. He beat Johnny Walker, but that was in a decision. And I heard the fans of the UFC didn't enjoy that fight because it was like slow paced. It wasn't very fun. And then he lost to Jamal Hill in his last fight, and then he was out of the UFC after that.
Yeah, that was Johnny. You said Johnny Walker, right?
Yeah, Johnny Walker.
Yeah, I remember that. I remember that fight a little bit. When you said that, I'm like, oh yeah, I kind of forgot about that fight. And then you said that, I'm like, oh yeah, I remember it now. So I remember Donnie, like it was really slow paced and anything like that. And it's crazy. The fans were like really saying like, yeah, it went through the decision as really slow. I'm looking to see it like how Dominic Reyes goes like going forward too, because it feels like with I don't know. I'm really going to see if he said it's more of a challenge for him. So I think if he wins Saturday, um, I'm looking to see how it's going to turn out. See if it goes up. He would have to fight. It won't make sense, I think, right, to fight a few more ranked people in that division. He said, be like I said, to be in the title slot or in the scene and win. He's got to win. He's got to win out the last few fights to even be anything. And he's in a spot where I think it's harder, not impossible, but harder. But it's only easier for those opponents too, a little bit, I think, too, if that makes sense, because they're higher ranked, obviously. So it's a much more easier slot. So it's gonna be crazy. I'm looking to see how that goes in the next coming events. So
Yeah, and
go
sorry.
ahead. No, go ahead. Go ahead. I cut you off.
Even if Reyes does win those next two fights, he has to get past Glover Teixeira, which is definitely no easy task.
No, it's not at all. Glover Teixeira, he's a beast right now. He's been a beast for a while. and that would be a great matchup, I think. But that's a beast. I don't know who's gonna. That's gonna be. I don't know. It's hard to pick that fight, honestly. That, like you said, Glover's such an animal in that octagon, and Dominic Reyes has been a beast for a while. So it's like I don't know. Glover's he's a different animal though.
He is. I think he's 43 now.
That's crazy. He's been in it for a while. So so that's gonna be a crazy fight too. But is there any other prelims fight that come in mind that you're really like looking into?
Uh, it was just the Reyes one, but I'll have to look at the full prelim list on UFC.com to get the whole like scoop.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I kind of looked at. I haven't, other than the Dominic Reyes one. I really haven't seen a whole lot of the prelims fight. I saw some of the main card. I saw that. Sorry, hold on, I think I dropped something. Oh, I just out. Sorry, I dropped my phone. Can you hear me now?
Yeah,
uh, sorry. But yeah, so I'm really looking forward towards there's a main card. I keep talking about the main card. I'm sorry, but with Dan Hooker, are you intrigued in that fight at all or no?
yes, I am. I'm hoping Dan Hooker can get back to the win column. Like he's been on like a 3 or 4 fight skid, man, and it's just tough to watch after having a really good like up and coming career, and then having to like fall off a little bit.
Yeah, I'm looking to see. I think so too. I mean, Dan Hooker, he's had a last few fights that weren't super, I guess, great, not great, but I don't know. They're gonna see how he goes back after this fight.
Yeah, his last fight, he tried to move up to featherweight, and he got completely destroyed by um, Arnold Allen.
Oh yeah, that was pretty crazy. He went up for that weight class. You said he went up, right?
Yeah, I think featherweight is up, right? Or is it down?
I think featherweight. Yeah, I think you're right because I think whatever Dan Hooker was in, I think that's like the last line that guys can go fight in, and then it goes. I think is it welterweight next, and then lightweight, then middleweight, and then light heavy, and then
I
heavyweight.
think I'm not too
I could
sure.
be I could be wrong on that. So if anybody's listening to this, I could be totally wrong. Take this with the biggest grain of salt. I have to look it up later. Um yeah, I think he went up a weight class because he's been fighting at the I was going to say wrestling. He's been fighting at the lowest you can fight at, you know. And I think you're right. I think he went up one and he got killed. But yeah,
Got
so
dismantled.
yeah. So who so are you gonna pull him for Dan Hooker in this fight or are you kinda going for the
Oh
other
yeah,
guy?
100%.
Yeah. So what's the out? How can I say this? What do you think the outcome of the Dan Hooker fight's going to be? Do you think he is going to continue to go like fight? Everybody wants to go for a title fight. Obviously, that's what if you're not fighting the UFC, you're on the wrong business to be fighting for a championship. But um, it feels like what do you think the outcome for Dan Hooker is after this fight? Like win or lose?
Dan Hooker, if Dan Hooker wins, man, I would like to see him go against Tony Ferguson. I think that would be a good fight.
That would be a great fight. Go ahead. I'm sorry, I cut you off.
Um, I see Hooker either winning by first round knockout or going to a decision.
Yeah. That'd be crazy. That'd be yeah. That's more realistic. I think for Dan, I think going the distance would be and winning by decision. I think would be pretty realistic for Dan. I think he needs to win for sure. He needs to win. I think right now he's one of those people who just he needs to win.
Yeah, it would help a lot for his career too.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it'd be kind of crazy. That'd be a crazy fight. Dan Hooker versus Tony. Or you said Tony Ferguson.
Yeah,
That'd be
Tony
crazy.
Ferguson. That
Yeah, that'd be crazy. I can only see what it's gonna be like now. Oh, okay. Let's play. Okay, so my favorite thing. I feel like I always ask you every time you come on. Okay, if we're playing like in fantasy land right now, and Dan Hooker wins and he fights Tony Ferguson, how do you think that fight's gonna go between Tony and Dan?
Oof. Well, both guys were in a slump,
Yeah,
and one has to come out victorious. And Dan Hooker's been calling out Tony Ferguson for a while, so I don't know how it's gonna play out, but I think Tony could possibly win. He's got a weird fight style.
yeah,
Um, he's got some freaking sharp elbows to make people bleed like crazy,
yeah,
and like his ground game is pretty good too. I never really seen Dan Hooker as a wrestler, only seen him as a stand-up fighter, which
yeah,
I think Tony may have the edge just a little bit.
yeah. I think that would be. You're right. I've never really seen Dan go to the ground. I feel like in his career, he's never really been like the one to really ignite the ground game a whole lot. Maybe I could be wrong in that case, but you said he's more of a ground like a stand like a what am I trying to say? Like he's the one that easily fight on his feet, you know. But he said Charles, he's one of those guys too. He can go anywhere and feel comfortable, I think. And that'd be kind of crazy. That would be like that's a let's excuse me. Let's say they're both in their prime. You know, I'm looking to see that would be just a crazy fight because I don't know who would pull forward in that fight. That's a crazy fight I would want to see. I feel like it's a dream match for like you big UFC fans too.
I think that'd be a spectacular fight.
Yeah, because you said they're both right now though. They're both in a slump right now, so they if they fought each other, I think that would only be one of those ones where like, okay, we're both in a slump. Okay, let's go out there and put on the biggest fight ever and see because we're both fighting towards a goal right now, and let's go out there and put on a show for everybody, kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. I think that'd be a. I think it'd be a war, to be honest, for
I
those
think,
two.
I think I would too. I think of the that one movie. He's like, "Are you not entertained?" That's what I think of when see those two guys go out there and fight. Those are some crazy. I think it would be a crazy fight, but first, I think Dan Hooker needs to win this fight, and then if Charles Oliveira or not Tony Ferguson, I get those two confused all the time. I don't know why, but if Tony answered the call, and fights Dan Hooker, those would two would be man, that would be an epic fight. I think,
Yeah, I think that'd be a heck of a fight.
yeah, for sure. Is there any other fights on the? Is that all the main card fights that we did we go through? Did we go through it already?
There's Frankie Edgar. I
Oh yeah.
heard that this is gonna be his last fight.
Cool. Sorry, say it again. Sorry, I didn't get that last part.
Frankie Edgar, I think this is his last fight. I think he's gonna retire after this, from
Yeah,
what I've heard. So another legend's gotta be leaving the sport pretty soon.
man, that's pretty sad. I mean, selfishly, I think that's pretty sad, but I'm kind of happy that he's gonna hang up the gloves. Like you said, like he's a legend in this game, man. Last legend I remember seeing retire live was Cowboy. And Cowboy was my Frankie Edgar is great too, but Cowboy, he was my favorite fighter. I think of one of my favorite fighters for sure of all time. My top five, he pretty easy.
Yeah, there was Cowboy and then Yawana
Yeah,
too.
for sure. Do you think who's Frankie Edgar fighting? Do you know?
I can't really think of his name. I think it's like an up and coming prospect in I think it's bantamweight division that Frankie Edgar is in. So I think it's an up and comer.
Oh, okay. I have to look into that for sure. But do you think, with this being Frankie's last fight and anything, do you think he's going out on top, or what do you think?
I think he does win,
For sure. Do you think he's going?
probably by decision though.
Yeah, I think that would be pretty cool. That would be pretty nice to see. Right into the sunset with a victory. That'd be pretty cool. I feel like that's everybody's dream. If you're gonna retire in this sport, you want to go out on top. Unfortunately, it didn't happen
Yeah,
for Cowboy.
absolutely.
Yeah, unfortunately, it didn't
No,
happen for
he didn't.
Cowboy. I was sad on that too. He retired. Not just that he lost, but he lost in a prelim fight. So that's just crazy, you know. I'm kind of sad for Cowboy. I'm happy for him that he retired. He's living his life, you know, in that ranch, you know, the BMF ranch, whatever it's called, and everything like that in New Mexico and everything, and doing all that. But sad that he lost his last fight, dude. I'm still trying to, you know, but yeah,
It's tough to watch a legend lose his last fight and just leave his gloves in the octagon, and then yeah, that's it. It's tough.
yeah. I remember, I think Daniel Cormier too retired on his last fight. Like obviously he retired on his last fight. He lost. So what am I trying to say? He lost his last fight. Is what I'm trying to say. I remember.
Stipe,
Yeah,
the trilogy.
I remember that too. I remember that was a great fight too, though. I mean, Stipe obviously got the victory, but I think DC really wanted to go out there, like go out as champion, you know. But unfortunately, I remember I think the interview after. I think I want to say Joe Rogan interviewed him possibly maybe after the fight, and I remember
Yes,
just
it was.
yeah, I remember him like DC started crying. I'm like kind of tearing up. I'm like, no, I'm like I'm already sad that angry that he lost. And two, now he's starting to like he's like tearing up. I'm like, no, I like turn it. Hey, I don't want to watch it because I feel like DC is a legend in the sport of UFC, not just in the sport of UFC, but not the same. Obviously, you know it's not the same. But I used to wrestle in high school, and DC in the world of wrestling is the legend in itself, in himself. You know, so the fact that
Yeah,
he's a legend in the wrestling world and the UFC MMA world. So, but yeah, I think obviously you already know that. Oh, so the fact that he retired and lost, I'm like, oh, dude, this stinks big time.
yeah, and plus, like, he was trying to recover from that eye poke that he suffered too. I heard that like his eye was completely messed up, like he couldn't see anything, but he still fought to the distance.
Yeah, especially against someone like Stipe. Stipe at 100%, and you're recovering from an injury like that. That's that's the biggest disadvantage of them all too. I think Stipe is one
Yeah,
of the.
it is.
Yeah, do you think? Man, kind of speaking about Stipe, do you think he's going to like? Do you think he's what's next for Stipe? Do you think?
I don't know, man. Like I was hoping that he would fight John Jones, but like they said that wasn't gonna happen. I was like, dang it, man. Like, why could you just sign the contract? There's a fight that we've been waiting for forever, and all you had to do was sign it, and he didn't do it.
I know. I was mad too. I mean, I just that's a dream match right there. That doesn't get much more of a dream match than Stipe versus John Jones, you know, because it feels like the winner of that would have gone to the championship against Francis, you know. I think that only makes
Yes.
sense that way. So it's like they backed away from a possible championship fight. That's what legitimate like when it comes down to it. That's what you backed away from. It feels like had you won, excuse me, between Stipe and Francis, or excuse me, Stipe and John, that would have been a title fight for the against Francis.
Yeah. So it's an interim title shot. I mean, a belt is a belt, but like it's like
Yeah,
it just matters if it's a good fight or not. If it's a good matchup, and is a hell of a matchup. It should have been on the UFC 282 card. Is what in my opinion
yeah,
that that's what it should have been on.
yeah, I agree
And we
100.
have to wait till 2023.
I agree 100% with what you just said. Can you imagine in December how we with UFC 282 had we closed out a fight? That would have been the main event of that pay per view, and that would have been. I think that would have made sense to make it a paper main event, right? And
Yeah,
then
of
and
course.
that would have been the craziest way to end out UFC 282. And not just UFC 282 to close it out, but close out the year. That would have been the cap of, UFC for the 2022 at UFC 282, with Stipe versus John Jones. And one of those behemoths are getting their hand raised, with the opportunity to, with the interim, title, getting put on by Dana or whatever, and going to with a shot, against Stipe or against Francis, excuse me. But that would have been a crazy fight too, though. Francis,
Yeah, it
Francis,
would have.
Francis versus Stipe or John. I would have paid 5 times over just to watch that fight.
I really want to see Francis versus John Jones.
Yeah, I think everybody does. I think if you really are a big fan of UFC and you actually understand, like, you're a diehard of it, you want to see Francis versus John Jones. That's not a knock at Stipe. I love Stipe. I love Stipe to death. I love watching him fight. He's a great person and anything like that. But it's John Jones versus Stipe or no, sorry, John Jones versus Francis for the title. And John Jones's first heavyweight title fight. That would have been crazy. The roof would have go. I want to explode off the arena.
Oh yeah, it would have. In Vegas, I would
Yeah,
hope.
yeah. Oh gosh, John Jones versus Francis in Vegas. talk about it. Talk about like legit winning lottery. No pun intended, but talk about winning the actual like lottery of like going to fight in the big like one of the biggest fighting excuse me arenas and have the two literally metaphorically and literal biggest guys fight to represent your company. That's what I would have been a
I
dream.
mean, it's got to happen.
It's got to happen sometime. I hope it's not like Floyd.
Yes.
I hope it's not like Floyd Mayweather versus Manny Pacquiao, where it's like it happened years past, like out of their primes, where it's like it's happening, but it would have been so cool had it done in their primes. I don't want it to be like that at all. I want it to be like well, they still have the chance to be smooth and be in there and fight, because it feels like John, he's still great, obviously he's still a great fighter, I think. And Francis, he's a beast. And those two going at it, oh gosh, that would have been amazing. Another example of this would have been, sorry, I keep talking, but another example of this, watching people in their prime fight, would be Conor McGregor versus Khabib. We all know how that ended and how that whole
Yeah.
thing went. That would have been that's another example of like what could happen between John Jones versus Francis.
Yeah, I think that fight should be in Vegas, and I definitely think that they would have so many pay-per-view buys. Like you would have no idea how big that pay-per-view would have been.
Yeah, Dana White, Uncle Dana White, he would have been like laughing his way to his bank right now. He would have been like, okay, guys, he would have had a Francis and John Jones on a press conference call, whatever, on a conference call. Well, okay, guys. Okay. So how about next month we run it back for John versus Francis too? Okay, guys. We're gonna have a lot of money. We're gonna make a lot of money, and yeah, go ahead and start another camp. I was kidding,
I would like that.
but yeah, that would have been a great fight though. But I don't know. I wish they would have signed the contract though. That would have been crazy had they
Yeah,
signed.
we have to wait.
I don't know why we need to keep waiting, dude. I would say just sign the contract and get it rolling. Yeah. Um, yeah, there's a lot of great fights. So I think this coming weekend, and a lot of great stuff I'm looking forward to, man. I think there's a lot of good fights. I think that could go either way, I think for sure.
Just sports, man. Gotta love it.
And man, that's why I love talking sports in this podcast. It feels like you never know what's gonna happen. I love watching sports because that reason. You never know. That's just the way it is.
Football too.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah, we got UT playing Saturday too. Who are they playing this weekend, do you know? I haven't even seen
It's
the
a
schedule.
big prime.
Who
It's
is
a
that?
big prime time game against TCU.
Oh, that would be great. Is it in Texas or is it in Texas? Is it in Austin or no?
Yeah, it's in Austin, bro.
Oh, that's gonna be a crazy game too. You obviously your winner that you're predicting is obviously gonna be Austin, but or UT, but how much are they beating them by, you think?
And Texas wins by a touchdown or a field goal.
Yeah. That's pretty. Yeah, I was it was a pretty close one too. Yeah, and then we got so Saturday we got is that an afternoon game? Is that a noon game, afternoon, or is that an evening one?
It's a primetime game, a nighttime game, the
Yeah,
most important games out there.
you said that. I'm sorry. I didn't. I kind of already forgot prime time. You said prime time, but so we got UT and UFC going at the same time. So I'm be doing a little bit of flipping back and forth, you know. But yeah. So gotta watch that for sure. And then Sunday, my Dallas Cowboys plays. So we got to see how we go to Green Bay for Dallas, you know. So kind of looking to see how that goes. But Matt, thank you again for always coming on, dude. I'm stoked for this weekend. We got a full slate of sports going on this weekend.
Yeah, me too. Thank you for having me. Be sure to watch the press conference too, because it
Oh,
happened last night.
oh yeah, make sure I watch that too for sure. I gotta watch that for UFC. But yeah, thank you again, man. Thank you again, Matt, and everybody listening or watching. Thank y'all again for coming in and watching the podcast. This is the What Really Happened podcast. I hope you have a great weekend tuning in, watching sports. And Matt, I hope you have a great weekend too, man. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you so much.
Cool. Peace, man.
Welcome.
Look more, dude.